Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Southern Gal True Crime. If this is your first time here, thank you so much for joining us. Today is our missing person Monday video. This week, I have 6 cases from Mississippi to share to you. And all these cases involve young adults and children. I believe the oldest one I'm going to feature or share is 21, and the youngest is just 2 years old. So the first one that we have, let me switch layouts here, is Jerry Lee Armstrong. Jerry went missing on December 23rd, 1977 from Hernando, Mississippi. He is classified as endangered missing. He is a black male. He was just 17 years old at the time he went missing. He will be 63 years old today. At the time he went missing, he was 5'6", 145 pounds. He was last seen wearing a dark green suit, a yellow shirt, a green tie, and black shoes with stacked heels. So with stacked heels, go back to that classic 1970s look. You have the boots with the higher heels, even that males wore back in the 70s, just that style of clothing. So I'm assuming that's what they mean by stacked heels. He has black hair, brown eyes, and he does have a scar over his left eye. So Jerry, and this is lots of stuff to unpack in this one. So Jerry was last seen in Hernando, Mississippi on December 23rd, 1977. That day, he had borrowed his brother James's white two-door 1973 Pontiac Le Mans and drove to his high school prom at the National Guard Armory. So that's very important to keep in mind, because in my opinion and the family's opinion, this could have a lot to do with what happened in this case. So he was a senior at Hernando High School, and he was the quarterback on the football team. Another important fact to keep in mind. So Jerry disappeared after he took his girlfriend home. After that, he was never seen or heard from again. And the car that he was driving, his brother's car, has also never been found. It had red and black racing stripes on the side, and it had the Mississippi license plate number DAY485. One theory is that Jerry was targeted by the local, I don't think I can say this out loud on YouTube, but the K organization from back in the day. So one theory is that Jerry was targeted by this organization in a case of mistaken identity. So at the time, Jerry's brother James was dating a Caucasian woman, which could have made this organization angry. And it is possible, one theory is it is possible that the members of this organization attacked and killed Jerry, believing that he was his brother James. So James ultimately died of a GSW to the chest in 1984. And his death was initially ruled self-harm, but his mother and his other brother Johnny did not they doubted that explanation. They said no way. Johnny, one of the other brothers, did criticize the police, saying that they failed to thoroughly investigate Jerry's disappearance in 1977. So I'm trying to make this as clear as possible. I know it's this case has got a lot of moving parts to it. So the current investigating officer said that valuable documents were missing from Jerry, who we're featuring here, his disappearance. Valuable documents were missing from Jerry's police file. Now that, unfortunately, with cases as old as these, this one's from the 1970s, things do happen. Files get destroyed, misplaced, mishandled. So unfortunately, like I said, that is just the nature of these kind of cold cases. But authorities have stated that they had not ruled out anything in Jerry's disappearance, They described him as an ordinary teenager. He had no enemies. There was no reason that they knew of for anybody wanting to hurt him. He had a steady girlfriend at the time. He had a job at a gas station. So it sounds like he was just a good, he was the quarterback of the football team. So it sounds like that he was a, all around good kid. So unfortunately, Jerry's mother passed away in 1987, but Johnny, the other brother, is still alive, and he obviously is hoping for answers in Jerry's disappearance. Jerry's case remains unsolved, obviously. So if you have any information regarding Jerry's case, please contact the Mississippi Bureau of Investigation at 662-934-3029 or the DeSoto County Sheriff's Department at 662-429-1470. And I do have an article and with some additional information to share with you. This article is from November of 2019. It is from WREG.com, and I will put all the links to all the articles and information sources that I use in the description box, so you can go back later if you want to and read them for yourselves. It says family wants answers in teens 1977 DeSoto County disappearance. Jimmy Lee Armstrong vanished more than 40 years ago, but his family says he didn't just disappear, that his life was taken by homicide. And they believe, in their opinion, it all boils down to race. Johnny Armstrong, who we talked about earlier, the brother of one of Jerry's other brothers, says, I think Jerry's life was taken out there on Craft Road. Back in 1977, his brother, a 17-year-old Jerry Armstrong, vanished, and Johnny has spent 4 decades of his life waiting for answers. Jerry was the quarterback for Hernando High School's football team, but his family says that decision did not go over well with some of his teammates. Johnny, his brother, says a lot of the white guys did not like it because Jerry was the quarterback for the team, and they were a little jealous of him for that. The last time the Armstrong family saw Jerry was just 2 days before Christmas, when he had dinner with his family. He then attended a Christmas dance with his girlfriend at the National Guard Armory in Hernando. And Johnny said after that dance, Jerry drove his girlfriend home. After that, Jerry and the car he was driving, which was his brother, the other brother's car, the 1973 Pontiac Le Mans, both Jerry and the car were never found. Johnny goes on to say that night, Mama and Daddy got up at 12:30 looking for Jerry because Jerry said he was going to be home at 12 o'clock. Mama said something has happened to Jerry. The next day, Armstrong's family did report him missing. His disappearance affected his entire family, especially his mother, who unfortunately we mentioned earlier passed away at the age of 49. Johnny says, Mama died of a broken heart. Every day, you can see it in her eyes. She would say every day, Lord God, please send my child home. Over the last 40 years, Johnny and his family have heard different theories about what happened, or what could have happened. Some believe that Jerry's life was taken on the side of the road by this K organization we were talking about earlier, and that they buried his body in a landfill. Another theory has, once again, we talked about this earlier, has Jerry being mistaken for his older brother James, who at that time was involved in an interracial relationship. And because the night Jerry disappeared, he was driving James's car. The Armstrong family has called hundreds of people over the years looking for answers, but it was a phone call that Johnny received that had the family reaching out to the FBI. According to the call, they said, blank, you're going to tell them investigators to back off. You're next. We're going to pay you. Mary Armstrong, Jerry's older sister, says her family just wants answers, obviously. She says, my dad is 86 years old and he deserves to know what happened to his son. Johnny Armstrong believes someone does know what happened to his brother, but they are too afraid to come forward right now. He says they're waiting for some of these people to pass away to keep from hurting some of these people's families. So we see this in a lot of cases, especially at the beginning before, like I say, time passes and people start dying, passing away that could possibly be involved. People are too afraid to say anything for fear that they or members of their family will be hurt. But let's just hope that since so much time has passed in this case, that some people will not be afraid. They'll be more willing to come forward. So once again, if you have any information regarding Jerry's case, you can call the DeSoto County Sheriff's Office or the FBI. Next, we have Angela Lee Freeman. Angela went missing September 10th, 1993 from Petal, Mississippi. She's a white female. She was just 17 years old at the time she disappeared. She would now be 48 years old. At the time she disappeared, she was 5'3", 108 pounds. It says she was possibly wearing a white t-shirt and jeans or shorts. And at the time she disappeared, she was 4 months pregnant. She has brown hair and blue eyes. She is right-handed. Her nickname is Angie. And she does have a scar below her left knee. So Angela was last seen in the parking lot of the Pizza Hut restaurant in her hometown of Petal, Mississippi at approximately 1 a.m. on September 10th, 1993. She was speaking with her former boyfriend at the time. He was the father of her unborn child, but apparently he had a new girlfriend and he did not want to raise the child that he had or was going to have with Angela. Angela's silver 1984 Honda hatchback was discovered abandoned with the windows rolled down at the old Munoz Bridge, which is over the Leaf River in Perry County, Mississippi. It was found at approximately 6:40 a.m. that morning. A pool of liquid was found on the ground near the car, which police initially thought was transmission fluid, but it later turned out to be blood. DNA testing proved that the blood did belong to Angela, and more blood was also found in the car. Days later, tracking dogs brought to the bridge found one of Angela's white Keds slip-on sneakers in the tall weeds near where the car had been parked. The other shoe was found beyond a locked gate leading to a private camp. Angela's purse and keys were never found, and a search of the Leaf River turned up no sign of Angela, her body, nothing. Angela is not believed to have left of her own accord. She had made a car payment and a layaway purchase shortly before her disappearance. She had bought groceries, which obviously they say would make no sense if she was planning to leave of her own accord, run away. She also left behind a paycheck for over $200. Angela's parents suspect that a man who was seen washing his truck in Gulfport, Mississippi at around 2 a.m. that the morning Angela vanished was involved in her disappearance. He had been hunting near the bridge where the car was found, and he has never been located or identified. At the time, Angela had dropped out of high school in the 9th grade. She was studying for her GED. She wanted to become an x-ray technician or a nurse. She had moved out of her parents' home, and she was living with a roommate at the time that she vanished. She worked at the Crystal Restaurant on Hardy Street in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Angela's mother and stepfather stated that although she was not close to them, she would not have left the area without at least telling them where she was going. Foul play is obviously suspected in Angela's disappearance. Once again, in this case, some family has criticized the investigation into her case. Authorities originally treated Angela as a runaway in spite of the blood found near the car, although they are now investigating the case as a criminal matter. Her loved ones believe that she was the victim of a homicide, and they think they know who the offender is, but they have not publicly released the individual's name. Angela's mother held a memorial service for her in 2002. Her case remains unsolved. So if you have any information regarding Angela's case, you can contact the Petal Police Department at 601-544-5331 or the Perry County Sheriff's Office at 601-964-8461. And I do also have an article with some additional information in Angela's case. This article is from September of 2023. It says Sunday, September 10th, will mark 30 years. So it'll be from September of this year, 2024, 31 years. Will mark 30 years since the disappearance of Angela Lee Freeman. Angela disappeared under suspicious circumstances, but her family has not given up hope for justice. We go on and live our life. We have to, but it never goes away. It is always there, said Deborah Freeman, Angela's mother. The 17-year-old was 4 months pregnant when she was last seen at the Pizza Hut in Petal on September 10th, 1993. Her car was later found abandoned at the Munoz Bridge in Perry County. Angela's mother said the Perry County Sheriff's Office initially dismissed her daughter as a runaway, and she believes law enforcement fumbled the investigation. She says things got tracked in, things got lost. It wasn't done right. We have to suffer for it, not them, Deborah said. Angela's body was never found. Detectives only found her shoes and a puddle of her blood. We've gone through this all these years praying that somebody would come forth and just maybe we can have justice and put Angela in the right burial place, said Clydell Freeman, Angela's grandmother. Angela was legally declared deceased in 2000. An official suspect was never named, but her family said, in their opinion, they know who took her life. Her mother Deborah says, I believe her life was taken by someone she knew because they did not want to reap the responsibility of the baby. So we'll go back to the basic initial information stating that her boyfriend at the time, who was the father of the baby, had a new girlfriend that apparently did not want the responsibility of the baby. Angela's family still fights to keep her memory alive. Her brother Nicholas has written and released 2 songs in her honor. Her case does remain open and in the hands of the 12th Circuit Court District Attorney. So once again, anyone with information regarding Angela's disappearance can contact Metro Crime Stoppers at 601-582-STOP, S-T-O-P. Next, we have Stacey Lynn Hazelton. Stacey went missing on May 21st, 2004 from Bolivar County, Mississippi. She's a white female, 21 years old at the time she disappeared. She'll be 41 years old today. At the time she disappeared, she was 5'1" and 150 pounds. She had brown hair and brown eyes. Some agencies spell her first name Stacey, S-T-A-C-Y, and her ears were pierced. So Stacey was last seen at the Alligator Place Apartments in Bolivar County, Mississippi on May 21st, 2004. She had moved to Mississippi earlier that year with her boyfriend, James Arthur Fannings Jr., but maintained close contact with her family in Pennsylvania and did call them frequently. They lived with Fanning's childhood friend, Siobhan Pierre Mack. Within a month of their arrival in Mississippi, the couple began running out of money. Fannings and Hazelton's relationship deteriorated. He was repeatedly unfaithful. There was DV involved, and it says they sometimes locked her in their bedroom. Hazelton last spoke to her parents in May of 2004. She asked for money so she could leave Fanning's and return home to Pennsylvania. They did send her money, but she never came home and she never contacted them again. Her parents reported her missing that December after months had passed without them being able to get in touch with her. Fanning was arrested and charged with her murder, her homicide, in January of 2006. Max said that he saw Fanning's GSW her in the head during an argument, and after her death, Fanning's made Mac help him dispose of her body. Allegedly, the men put her body in a plastic barrel, loaded the barrel into her own green Chevy Blazer. They drove around in the vehicle with her body for 2 or 3 days, then attempted to burn it inside the barrel. Max said that he and Fanning's took what was left and buried it in the woods near a creek in Duncan, Mississippi. Fanning's and Mac then drove her Blazer to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Sometime later, both men were arrested on unrelated charges, and Hazelton's vehicle was impounded. Following his release from custody, Fanning's began seeing another woman, and they shared an apartment in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. After Hazelton's parents reported her missing, the police interviewed Mac about her disappearance, and he told them about witnessing her homicide. He stated that he hadn't come forward earlier because he had been afraid for his life. So we'll take that with a grain of salt, in my opinion. Fanning's was tried late in 2006. Except for Mac's testimony, the case against him was largely circumstantial. The jury deliberated only 16 minutes before convicting him of first-degree homicide. He was sentenced to life in prison, and he is presently incarcerated in a maximum security facility in Mississippi. He did appeal, but the courts did uphold the conviction in 2008. So Hazelton's family still hope to be able to find her remains and bring her home. Foul play obviously suspected in her disappearance, but her remains as of 2024 still have not been found. So if you have any information regarding Stacey's case, please contact the Bolivar County Sheriff's Department at 662-843-5378. And I do have an article with some additional information. This article is from December of 2008 and is just regarding the James Arthur Fanning losing his appeal in Stacey's case, and it does have an interview with her parents. So a Mississippi Court of Appeals Tuesday upheld the homicide conviction of a former Lancaster man in the 2004 slaying of Stacey Lynn Hazelton of Kinzers. James Arthur Fannings Jr. was sentenced to life in prison without parole 2 years ago for the fatal shooting of 22-year-old Hazelton at a northern Mississippi apartment complex. Hazelton's mother, Natalie Hazelton of Kinzers, said Friday that receiving news of Fanning's rejected appeal, quote, couldn't have come at a better time, as Stacey's birthday was that day. We're glad, it's bittersweet, Natalie Hazelton said. We're happy he'll be in prison for the rest of his life. We are relieved, but we wish we could tell her happy birthday in person. The Mississippi Appeals Court rejected all of Fanning's claims, including insufficient evidence to prove his guilt, that he had ineffective counsel, and he was not informed of his right to testify and was sentenced improperly. He is incarcerated at a maximum security prison in Mississippi. Stacey Hazelton met Fannings when they worked together at an area gas station. Although witnesses testified that Fanning's, there was DV involved, they moved together to Bolivar County, Mississippi in April of 2004. And by May, that is when Stacey had disappeared. A break in the case came when her vehicle turned up. We talked about that. It turned up in a Pennsylvania impound lot in September of 2005, which led police to former Lancaster resident Siobhan Mack, who is a friend of Arthur Lee Fanning's. Mack admitted at a June 2006 preliminary hearing that he was present when Stacey's remains were buried. At Fanning's 3-day trial in November of 2006, Mack testified that he also was present the night that Fanning's was, quote, playing with his firearm while arguing with Stacey about Fanning's ongoing relationships with other women. Mack testified that Fanning's told Stacey, quote, if I can't have anybody else, then I might as well take my own life. Mack testified that Stacey replied, no, kill me. And then Mack said Fanning's put his gun against Stacey's head and fired. Mack also testified that he helped Fanning's transport and burn Stacey's body and bury her remains in the woods in Duncan, Mississippi. He told police that he did not come forward sooner with the information because Fanning's had threatened his life. After repeated efforts, Stacey's remains have never been recovered. Her mother said Friday the search will resume when weather permits. She says, our focus is still on finding her remains and bringing her home. There hasn't been a new effort for a while. Now we've got to get back in there and look again. Natalie Hazelton commended Pennsylvania State Police and Mississippi officials for their work on her daughter's case. She says they were all excellent. They were with us through everything. So some additional information regarding what allegedly what they said, Fanning's and Mack's version of what happened in Stacey's regarding Stacey's case. This is Myra Renee Lewis. She is the youngest that I'm sharing today, 2 years old. She went missing on March 1st, 2014 from Camden, Mississippi. Once again, just 2 years old when she went missing. She will be 12 years old today. And on the smaller picture on the slide there, I believe that is an age progression photo to what she would look like at 10 years old. At the time she disappeared, she was 2 feet 10 inches tall and 27 pounds. She was last seen wearing a turquoise sweater with the image of a bear on the front, off-white or khaki pants, and pink sneakers. And she has black hair and brown eyes. So Myra was last seen playing outside of her home on Mount Pilgrim Road in Camden, Mississippi between 10:30 and 11 a.m. on March 1st, 2014. Her mother left to go to the grocery store and told Myra and her sisters to go inside the house where their father was. So unfortunately, each parent thought that Myra was with the other one, so no one realized that she was missing until 3 p.m. So the last time she was seen was around 10:30 or 11 a.m., and they did not realize she was missing until 3 p.m. So after looking for themselves for an hour, Myra's parents called the police. An extensive search of the area turned up no sign of Myra. Unfortunately, that is about the only information that is available in her case. So if you have any information regarding little Myra, please call the Madison County Sheriff's Office at 601-859-2345 or the Mississippi Highway Patrol at 855-642-5378. And once again, I do have an article with a little bit more information. This article is from May of 2019 and is with the sheriff who's helping investigate Myra's case. Myra Lewis case frustrates sheriff 5 years after Toller's disappearance. It says it has been, hold on, it's making me log in to read it. It's been 5 years since Myra Lewis, a Madison County toddler, went missing. It's never been a cold case, and as long as I'm here, it never will be, Madison County Sheriff Randy Tucker said. 2-year-old Myra disappeared from her family's home in Camden on March 1st, 2014. 5 years later, there's still no trace of her. Tucker said leads were followed, interviews were done. It's extremely frustrating that 5 years later, I have to stand here and tell you that we are no closer to finding Myra than we were that day. The house on Mount Pilgrim Road where Myra was last seen now sits empty. It was abandoned by her family, who also seems to have disappeared. Tucker said the family does not check in with the Madison County Sheriff's Office. Tucker says, we've tried to maintain contact with them. We don't have any way to contact them at this point. They've moved away and did not provide a forwarding phone number or address or anything of that nature. So I find that extremely odd and disturbing. Please let me guys know if you're watching the premiere. Let me know in chat what you think, or if you're watching replay, please leave a comment and let me know what you think about that. During the height of the March 2014 search for Myra, the sheriff said volunteers covered almost a 5-mile area around the home. Eagle Eye 16 shows what it looks like today. There's nothing but trees and an open area around the house. Across the street, a pond is surrounded by trees and brush, and is the same all around the area. And I'm wondering, hopefully, back when she first disappeared, I'm hoping that they did search that pond or have searched it in the years since she disappeared. Tucker says we had helicopters, dogs, men and women on foot, volunteers from the community, every law enforcement agency that you can think of. It was an exhaustive search. But the main focus was the family home where Myra was reported missing. It seems as though she vanished into thin air, Tucker said. The dog initially picked up her scent here in the yard of the residence up until about the fenced area, and that was it. So I don't know how far out the fenced area was from the house. Sorry, I lost my place. For Tucker, there's one thing about the case that stays on his mind. The first picture that I saw of Myra is what I think sticks out in my head the most. You had this little girl, this precious little girl, and her smile was just infectious, Tucker said. Tucker believes that someone out there does know what happened to Myra. An age-progressed photo shows what she will look like today. And on the slide I showed before, it was age-progressed to 10 years old. Tucker says, I would like to take this opportunity to ask if there's anybody that has information, however insignificant they feel it is. We've still got the puzzle laid out. We just need that one piece of information that completes that puzzle for us, Tucker said. Once again, anyone with information that can help Madison County investigators with the case is asked to call the Sheriff's Department or Crime Stoppers at 601-355-TIPS, which is 601-355-8477. Next, we have Genevieve Nicole Munoz. Genevieve went missing June 11th, 1994 from Biloxi, Mississippi. She's a white female, 18 years old at the time that she went missing. She will be 48 years old today. At the time she went missing, she was 5'7", 120 pounds. She was last seen wearing cutoff blue jeans and a shirt with horse designs on the front. She had light brown hair, hazel eyes. She does go by her middle name Nicole or the nickname Nikki. So Nicole was last seen in Biloxi, Mississippi on June 11th, 1994. She left her parents' home with her 3-month-old son between 10 and 11 a.m. She was driving her 1988 Plymouth Reliant. with vanity license plates reading Pantera. She had planned to pick up her son's father, Michael David Lamb, and then go shopping with them at the Edgewater Mall. Her parents became worried when she had not returned home by nightfall, and they called Lamb. Their child was at Lamb's residence, but Nicole was nowhere to be found. Get your red flags ready. She has never been heard from again. Authorities initially considered Nicole to be a possible runaway, but her parents never believed that she left of her own accord. We always say, except for very rare circumstances, I believe in my heart that a mother would not go off and leave her child. And that's just my opinion. Her appearance was later reclassified as an endangered missing person. At the time of her disappearance, she was completing her senior year at Biloxi High School. She was saving $600 so her parents could legally adopt her son. And the reason they were doing this was so the baby could get on Nicole's parents' health insurance plan. Nicole's parents claimed that she got into a fight with Lamb, boyfriend, father of her child, on the day of her disappearance. The argument supposedly turned physical, and Nicole's brother had to intervene. Her car was found abandoned in the parking lot of a Gulfport Biloxi Regional Airport the day after her disappearance. Her parents did ask the airport security to view the surveillance tapes, and Nicole was not visible on any of the tapes. It would be interesting to know if the boyfriend, Mr. Lamb, if he was on any of the surveillance tapes. In October of 2008, authorities did arrest Lamb and charge him with Nicole's homicide. He told investigators that he and Nicole got into an argument at his mother's kitchen while his mother was present, and he accidentally GSW'd Nicole in the chest. Lamb said he and his mother panicked afterwards, wiped up the blood, wrapped Nicole's body in 2 large garbage bags, and put it in a dumpster at Hiller Park. And his mother is now deceased. Lamb told another story to the mother of 2 of his other children. This story, he said he and Nicole were arguing, and then Nicole grabbed a knife. They struggled over the knife. Lamb was able to get control of the knife and stabbed Nicole in the abdomen, and that's how she passed away. So, in trigger warning. So, also in this version of his story, he says he dismembered her body, wrapped it in trash bags, and placed it in a dumpster at a ball field. So, Lamb was convicted of manslaughter in 2009. He was sentenced to 20 years in prison, but he was released in 2013 after serving just 4 years of his sentence. Nicole or her remains have never been located as of 2024. Obviously, foul play is suspected due to the circumstances, and her parents did raise her child after she vanished. So if you have any information regarding anything you may know in Nicole's case, please call the Biloxi Police Department at 228-435-6112. And once again, I do have an article with some additional information. This article is from April of 2013, and it is an interview with the father. So Vincent Munoz spent Christmas Eve tending to the needs of his dying wife and listening to repeated automated phone messages informing him his daughter's offender had been freed less than 4 years into a 20-year sentence for manslaughter. Here I was trying to take care of my wife who is passing, Munoz said, and the phone is ringing every 2 hours well into Christmas Eve morning with an automated message telling us he was being released on such and such date, but the date had already passed and he was already out. So not only was he released, just only served 4 years, they did not inform The family didn't get these messages until he had already been released. The Munoz family had waited for 14 years to learn what had happened to their daughter, Biloxi High School senior Genevieve Nicole Munoz, who disappeared at age 18 shortly after her parents last saw her buckling her son into a car seat the morning of June 11th, 1994. Nicole, they've said, was in good spirits that day, having persuaded the father of her child to go shopping for their baby at Edgewater Mall in Biloxi. It was the baby's father, Michael David Lamb, now 36, who turned out to be the offender. By nightfall, Nicole's parents had started to worry because she did not come home or call to say that she was going to be late. They called Lamb's home, and to their astonishment, Lamb and the baby were there, but Nicole was not. Nicole's family reported her missing to Biloxi police, who, as we said earlier, listed Nicole as a possible runaway. The FBI later got involved, but nothing ever came of the investigation. Nicole's family had no doubt something horrible had happened to her. They knew in their hearts that she was deceased. Nicole's car was found in a distant parking lot at what was then the Gulfport Biloxi Regional Airport, just out of reach of security cameras that could have shown who dropped her car off there the night of her disappearance. To her family, nothing made sense. Nicole's family knew she would never leave her son. I believe that. They waited and waited for someone to take notice of Nicole's absence. Lamb was eventually arrested on a charge of homicide, but later pleaded guilty to a reduced charge of manslaughter. He was sentenced to 20 years in prison in April of 2009, but served a little more than 3 years by earning time off of his sentence. Don't know how good behavior, Michael Lamb took the life of a human being, and he essentially got away with it, Nicole's brother, Nicholas Munoz, said. This is not just an injustice to our family, it is an injustice to our state. We let an offender go free. Article, the Sun Herald's cold case series featured Nicole's story in March of 2008. The story noted that Nicole was never seen alive after she left to go shopping with Lamb, and that friends suspected he knew what had happened to her. When Nicole's parents picked up the baby that night in 1994, they asked Lamb where Nicole could have gone, and he didn't have any answers. Surprise, surprise. They hoped Lamb's mother or siblings would tell them something. They had no answers either. And Vincent and Victoria Munoz drove their grandson home, and it was the first of many hard nights over the years. Shortly after the Sun Herald story on Nicole's disappearance, Biloxi police decided to take a closer look at the case. Cold case investigators Christopher DeBack and Mike Brown tracked down Lamb at a car dealership in Peoria, Illinois. By then, he had 2 other children with a girlfriend. Conflicting stories didn't take long. Investigators said before Lamb was telling them what happened. Lamb knew why they had driven to Illinois to see him, and he did confess to taking Nicole's life. Lamb first said he GSW'd her after they argued at his mother's home in Biloxi. Lamb said he and Nicole, their son, and his mother, Diane Lamb, were sitting at the kitchen table where there was a firearm his mother had just cleaned, apparently, was sitting on the table. He said he picked up the gun and, quote, it just went off, shooting Nicole in the shoulder. Lamb told a different story later to another one of his girlfriends, though the result was the same. Court records show he claimed to that woman, who was the mother of his 2 other children, that he had stabbed Nicole and later disposed of her body. The woman, the girlfriend, told police that she had been afraid to tell her story because she had been the victim of DV. The woman said Lamb claimed to have thrown Nicole's body in a dumpster near a ball field. Laws allowed early release. This is a very poorly written article. Laws allowed Lamb's early release, pleading guilty to manslaughter in Nicole's homicide. A judge sentenced him to the maximum time allowed for manslaughter, which is 20 years. And Nicholas Munoz said, "We thought that meant 20 years. This guy is a proven liar. He changed the story multiple times. He blamed his mom. He blamed Nicole. Basically, nothing was his fault. He didn't do anything." You see that a lot, unfortunately, with these offenders. As for him being released, aside from it being absolutely ridiculous, the guy ruined our family for life. He kept us in limbo for 14 years, and the state of Mississippi is saying he's good to get out. This needs to be fixed for every other family this could happen to. It is just not right. I agree, in my opinion. By the time he was sentenced, Lamb has spent 205 days in custody. Mississippi Department of Corrections spokeswoman Tara Booth said that time was applied to the time he was served for his conviction. Booth confirmed Lamb was released from prison December 23rd, 2012. As for his post-release status, Booth said Lamb is not on probation or parole. Sentence had simply expired. Lamb's sentence for manslaughter has simply expired under the state sentencing computation laws that applied to crimes committed before 1995, when the state enacted a truth in sentencing law, Booth said. Lamb had gained a trustee status in custody, Booth said, though he wasn't one of the type of trustees allowed to leave prison grounds to work. Still, as a result of the status, Lamb was eligible to earn time off his sentence at the rate of 30 days for each 30 days served. In addition, Lamb earned meritorious time as set out in sentencing laws, meaning more time came off his sentence for completing educational and vocational programs while incarcerated. Please let me know, once again, if you're watching the premiere in chat or if you're watching the replay in comments, what your thoughts are on this sentencing and taking time off for good behavior and getting an education. So, in addition, Booth said MDOC does not decide when to release an inmate. It follows state sentencing computation laws that determine when an inmate is eligible for release. In addition, Booth pointed out that Lamb was sentenced for a crime committed in 1994, a year before the state passed this truth in sentencing law, requiring offenders sentenced to jail for certain violent crimes to serve 85% of their sentence. Justice for Nicole. Sorry, this, like I said, very poorly written. That MDOC officials followed the law regarding Lamb's release gives little comfort to the Munoz family. DeBack and Brown are equally frustrated, as am I, and I'm sure a lot of you watching this are. This department worked closely with this family to find justice for Nicole, DeBack said. It's frustrating to know the system, in my opinion, has holes in it. I wouldn't have expected him to get out so soon. You always assume they'll serve 50 to 75% of their sentence, not just a little over 3 years, Brown agreed. To me, it's very disappointing that you could plead guilty to manslaughter and the homicide of another or the death of another and just serve a little over 3 years. Substance dealers and burglars serve more time than that. And I say that all the time. When I read this, I'm like, exactly. In cases we've seen, substance dealers, people who have committed lesser crimes, although they are crimes, but lesser crimes than homicide or manslaughter, and serve more time than 3 years. So once again, I lost my place. Says, so substance dealers and burglars serve more time than that, but if you take somebody's life, you can be out in less than 4 years. It is ridiculous. I hate it for the family. Dylan Munoz, Nicole's son, refers to his biological father as my sperm donor. He spent his life with his grandparents who adopted him shortly after Nicole's disappearance. So apparently Dylan was one of the other 2 children that Lamb had. Oh no, this was the baby. Sorry, I'm getting so riled up about this and get confused. So Dylan says that Lamb, who allegedly or who was convicted of taking the life of his mother, says his father is a sperm donor. I agree there. So he has spent his life with his grandparents and they adopted him. So at least he had grandparents that loved him and adopted him and raised him. When he heard of Lamb's release, he said, "It really made me upset. His early release and the late notification was unacceptable. He should have been in the state prison at Parchment for the rest of his life. You never know if he will do something else to somebody else's mother or someone else's daughter. I have so much aggravation toward him. You want him to show remorse for what he did." The Sun Herald was unable to reach Lamb for comment. So that is how Mr. Lamb only served 4 years, a 20-year sentence for taking the life of his then girlfriend. All right. Our last missing is Leigh Occhi. Leigh went missing on August 27th, 1992 from Tupelo, Mississippi. She is a white female. She was just 13 years old at the time she went missing. She would be 44 today. When she went missing, she was just 4 foot 10 inches tall, 95 pounds. She was last seen wearing a nightshirt and green yellow silk boxer shorts. She has blonde hair and hazel eyes. She has a strawberry birthmark at the base of her skull, a small scratch scars on her right leg, and bumps on the skin of both of her knees. Her ears are pierced. She has a lazy left eye and wears eyeglasses, and her blood type is either A or O. So Leigh was last seen at her family's residence in the 100 block of Honey Locust Drive in Tupelo, Mississippi on August 27th, 1992. Her mother, Vicki Felton, saw her before leaving for work at 7:35 a.m. Leigh planned to attend an open house at her school that day, and she was waiting for her grandmother to come pick her up. It was the first time her mother had left her at home alone. There were heavy storms that day as Hurricane Andrew moved over the area, and Leigh's mother was concerned for her as a result. Her mother tried to call her at 8:30 a.m. but got no answer. She tried to call once more before returning home, but there was still no answer the second time. Felton became worried and returned home to check on Leigh and discovered that the garage door was open and the light was on, meaning that the door had been activated in the past minutes. So not an hour or hours, but it had been activated within a few minutes of the mother returning to the home. Another door to the house was left unlocked. There was no sign of Leigh at the scene, and she has not been seen again. Felton called the police at 9 a.m. to report her daughter's disappearance. There were no signs of forced entry into the home, but there were some indications that a struggle had taken place. Fresh, still wet stains of type O blood were inside the house on the walls, the carpet, and the bathroom countertop. There was a blood trail leading from the hallway to the living room to the back door, and blood and hair stuck to a door frame, suggesting that Leigh hit her head on the door frame with whatever happened to her. One of Lee's nightgowns and her bra, both items bloodstained, were in her bedroom. She had been wearing that nightgown when Felton, her mother, left the house that morning. It looked like someone had made efforts to clean up the blood in the bathroom, but police could not find a used rag or towel anywhere that had been used to try to clean it up. Lee's reading glasses, shoes, some of her underclothes, and a sleeping bag were missing. Police searched the area with bloodhounds, but due to the weather conditions, the dogs were not able to get a scent. About a month after Lee's disappearance, her glasses arrived at her residence in the mail. They were addressed to B. Yarborough, and Lee's stepfather was named Barney Yarborough. He and Lee's mother had separated a short time before her disappearance. The street name in the address on the envelope was misspelled Honey, Hony, Locust, and the envelope had 6 stamps, which was twice as many as was needed. It was postmarked from Boonville, Mississippi, which is about 30 miles north of Tupelo. Sorry. There was nothing else in the envelope. Handwriting and forensic tests on the envelope yielded no results. The stamps had been wet with water, so there was no saliva or DNA on the envelope. The person who mailed the glasses has never been identified, but police think the glasses were mailed to mislead the investigation. 14 months after Lee's disappearance, a skull was found in a field, and at first it was identified as Lee's, but it turned out that the state medical examiner's office was not using Lee's most recent dental records, and the skull was not hers after all, and it was later identified as that of a missing 27-year-old woman. Authorities stated they had very little evidence to determine who was responsible for Lee's disappearance. Several persons of interest have been interviewed, but no one has been charged in connection with her case. Felton, who was Felton? Sorry, I've already forgot who Felton was. Oh, Felton, I'm sorry, Felton was her mother. Sorry. Her mother was given 3 polygraphs and failed all of them, but she has not been identified as a suspect. Now, we all know how notoriously unreliable polygraph tests are or can be. She stated that she believes a man named Oscar Mike Kearns, who was a local man who knew Lee through church, was responsible for Lee's disappearance. 9 months after Lee's disappearance, Kearns abducted a 15-year-old girl from her home in Memphis, Tennessee, essayed her, and released her. And he had also known this victim through church. Kearns did plead guilty to SA and was sentenced to 8 years in prison, but was released after less than 4 years. After his release, he went on to kidnap a married couple. He SA'd the wife. He was sent back to prison. He was scheduled for release in 2019. He has refused to be interviewed or polygraphed about Lee's disappearance. Get your red flags out, everybody. Lee resided alone with her mother at the time that she disappeared. She was about to begin the 8th grade at Tupelo Middle School. Her father, who divorced from her mother in 1981, was in the Army, and he was stationed out of state. And her mother is also a veteran of the armed forces. Lee's father got emergency leave from the military after her disappearance and moved to Tupelo with his family so he could assist in the search for his daughter. He stated although he wasn't able to see Lee often due to his military obligations, they did have a close relationship, and he believes someone within the family was involved in Lee's disappearance. Both Lee's father and her stepfather did pass polygraph tests, and they were ruled out as suspects. Her stepfather is now deceased. Her mother lives in Michigan. Lee's boyfriend, who was 11 years old at the time of Lee's disappearance, was never questioned by the police. Foul play is obviously strongly suspected in Lee's disappearance, and it remains unsolved. So that was a lot to unpack once again in this case. If you do have any information in Lee's case, please contact the Tupelo Police Department at 662-841-6491 or the FBI at 202-324-3000. And once again, I do have an article with some more information. Okay, so as usual, with my signal, I cannot get that article to load. So you can search for it. Let's see if you can get it to load. It was an article that the mother and law enforcement were hoping that new DNA technology could help bring some more clues or help solve Lee's case. So once again, you can see there, it's in the Daily Journal. I apologize for not being able to get it loaded. So those are our cases for the week. I'm sorry if I seemed a little frustrated in this video, but between some of the facts of the cases and once again, my computer not cooperating with me. Anyway, my videos usually go a little bit more smoother than this. But anyway, thank you for watching. Please give this video a like before you leave. Leave a comment. Share. That is the most important thing you can do, is share this video anywhere and everywhere you can, to all your social media platforms, to get these missings names, faces, their stories. Keep them out there so they're never forgotten. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Be careful out there. Take care of each other. That is the most important thing we can do, is take care of our fellow human beings. And I will see you in the next one. Thanks, guys.